Let's see what we got here. Welcome to everybody just joining on the replay while everybody loads live. All right, cool with this. Mixing that with let's see what we got. Good morning, everybody. Let's do that again. I think I want to mix a piano with that as well. Mix a little piano with that. How's everybody this morning? Let's see here. Do it the quick way. Just stack that. Fleece, what's up, man? Let's change this. Aaron, good morning, man. Moving a little slow, getting stuff together this. Well, I'm not moving slow. This computer's moving a little slow. It's trying to make me buy a new one, but I refuse right now. What's up, Steve? Oh yeah, it's definitely cold. Definitely cold. All right, so. Stack something else with that. See what that feels like. Second chord is weird. Kind of like the lower register. See what that feels like. Ranzis, what's up, man? But no, I keep calling you Ranzis, man. I just read the name first. Good morning, man. So it's colder here. I think it's in the 40s. It gotta be in the 40s this morning. Gotta be in the 40s. Fleece. I'm not in. I'm in Georgia, but it's definitely cool out here. It was cold yesterday as well. So I know y'all like, man, up there, it's like it's not really that cold. But here, that's cold. When you from the south and you used to warmer weather, yeah, I don't like it getting too cold. That's not that's not my story. I don't care for that. All right. Let's do that again. Let's put some bass on it right fast, just to get some foundation up under all of that. Andre said, good morning. How was Thanksgiving? Yep, Thanksgiving was good. I went home to Mississippi and got some good old soul food and all that good stuff. It's my little one or two times a year. I don't eat a lot of soul food anymore. You know, more of that help. And I could feel it. Man, it was crazy because I could tell when I got back home, it's like I felt heavy, like literally heavy. And I had to get that off of me. And literally I've been kind of making myself go a little bit harder the last couple of days, just trying to get myself together. Cause yeah, I could tell when I changed my eating and I eat like I haven't been. It's crazy because I can eat other food, but I just ate like you at your mom's, you doing your thing, so you eating back to back. So and food was good, but I felt heavy when I got back, and so yeah, I definitely had fun to say the least. Did a lot of little ATV four-wheeler riding. I took my kids riding on the four-wheeler. You know, my family lives back home in the country, and well, I live in the country here. But taking four-wheeler riding, tractor riding, all that kind of stuff in the cold. Good fun stuff. Yeah, good country fun, what we call it. So let's see here. See what we can do with this bass. I have not played bass with this morning. Floppy T, what's up, man? Anthony Robinson, good morning from Columbia. Man, thank you, sir. Good morning to you. All right, here we go. Changes. I literally just got through playing this, but I'm trying to internalize it, if you will. Let's see here. Four-wheeling. Oh man, that's like my. If anybody has to ask, like, what do you like doing outside of music? That's your favorite pastime. Four-wheeler ride all day long. I could literally stay on the four-wheeler like for the rest of the day and be good, and not do anything else. Trail riding, all that kind of stuff. That's probably like my most fun that I like to have outside of music. if I had to have a like hobby and that kind of thing, like four-wheeler riding all day. I like just country stuff, like trucks and tractors and all that kind of. I'm weird, but it is what it is. That's like my favorite pastime. So people that really know me, they know. My mom them already know when I come home, pull the four-wheeler out because they know what time it is. So yeah, that's it for me. We got enough where we can add a little scratch space in there for sure. I'll go back if I don't like it. Y'all know how to do it. I'll go back and add it again. Let's see what we got. Let's see here. I'm gonna play around with it for a second. Got a good feel on it. I'm gonna play around with it before I add some more stuff. Hopefully y'all don't mind. Appreciate that. Good morning, Tiffany. He said, Andre said, straight up country boy all day long. That's all. Like this groove, it moves at the pace, makes you want to get things that, make you want to definitely get some stuff done. Little upbeat thing. I know we did the gospel quartet last week. Hopefully y'all had a minute to sit with some of that stuff. Floppy, I appreciate that. Hopefully y'all had a minute to sit with that track that I uploaded on yesterday. I was out of town all last week, so hopefully y'all had a chance to sit with that, the one that we created on last week, and practice with it. It's a little different, but you know, all of them are different for the most part. But that's why you come, right? Let's see here. Duplicate this. Let's play around a little bit with this idea. Gain this bass line up just a little bit so I can feel it some more. chord. So we're going from that D to E, then an F minor. Like G sus. It's like a 5-chord of A and E. So from like A, it's basically we're in the key of A minor. If you want to think of it as C, we're starting on the 6th. So yeah, that's how we're navigating through that. So 6, A minor, to the F, back to A minor, F, to G, F, 2, 3, like you're going 2 straight 3, and then we make that like the 5 of A. That's the curveball we throw in there with that F minor, that G minor, G sus. Playing like an E minor over there. And resolve. So you can kind of get away with that over that chord. And then you can resolve that. So I'm on G minor, arpeggio. These are all just like one way you can play it. I'm not playing like the optimum amount of ways that we can, because it's endless ways we can play this. But I'm just kind of giving some like basic ways we can approach it. So yeah, I got my bass kind of some other little things happening here with the sound. Alright, so now I got an idea of what I'm playing. Let's play through it. Y'all good? Stereo, what's up, man? Hopefully all is well. Charles, good morning, man. Corey, good morning to you. What is that? Pleat, good morning to you. Let's see, I'm trying to get through some of these comments. Floppy, he said, is there any instrument you can't play? And please don't say the triangle. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff I don't play, man. Nah, it's not keys lessons, man. So I appreciate that. Gerardo, I'm sorry. Sao Paulo, Brazil. Thank you, man. Greetings to you. South Africa is in the building. Nukin. I keep forgetting it. So it goes D first to E, straight up. Okay, start from the 2. Oh, I meant to tell y'all, I got my pedal board sweet now. And I got the different sounds, because some people want to know sometimes what sounds I'm using. If you want to write this down, on my pedal board, I got the Spectra Drive by TC Electronic. And I'm pretty much using that to like compress. That's pretty much the only reason I use it for the most part. Like it's to EQ, add just a little, it's like a bass preamp, in other words. It's a bass preamp with a compression and an overdrive on it. And I use that. I hardly ever use the overdrive. Every now and again I might pull it out, but like it's rare that I pull out the overdrive. And for you that don't know what I'm talking about when I say like overdrive, it's like real grungy. Let me turn that sound off. So it's like real, like a guitar. So you can use it. It's up to you. I think if you mix it with some other stuff, it can sound really cool. Me personally. So I'll go through it real quick. All right. So I got that Spectra Drive. I use the Alter Ego by most of these are TC Electronic pedals, not all of them. But I use the Alter Ego. It's like a delay. And got a lot of different effects by TC Electronic. And this is not a promotion, no, nothing like that. So this is not a paid advertisement. I just let you guys know what I got on my pedal board. I'm kind of excited about it because I got everything working and powered up and cleaned up a little bit. So I'm super excited about it. So again, the Alter Ego, the setting I have on it now, this little, I don't know what we call it, but it's some type of delay setting. So it's pretty cool. So it's a pretty cool little situation. I use the Hall of Fame 2 reverb just for a little reverb every now and then. It's very light. I don't have a lot because I don't want to overkill with the reverb, but I'll turn it up just for the sake of you hearing it in context. And just to be clear, most of these sounds that I have on my pedal board are for when I'm doing solo type stuff. Majority of the sounds that I have here, simply for my solo and my enjoyment, my fun. So I'm also using an MXR bass envelope filter, which is a super dope sound I like to use a lot. And it sounds like this. And it even sounds great like with thumping. So it kind of got that like a wah filter type thing happening. I like it a lot. Another thing I'm using is the Polytune by TC Electronic. That's simply, I can mute to tune. Has a nice digital display screen so I can tune my bass. That's all this for. It mutes it bypasses everything and allow me to tune. So I don't have to be tuning like this. I literally can mute to tune. So yeah, it's cool. Checking my tuning while I'm talking. All right, so let's fix that. All right, cool. The other thing I'm using is the Corona Chorus by TC Electronic. I hardly ever use that, but when I do, it's a nice sound as well. Let's see here. So it got a nice little line, you know, that kind of thing happening. And last but not least, I use, most of you guys know, the Digitech Jamman Stereo for my looper. That's pretty much what I use. So yeah, that's the setup right now. That's what I'm kind of working with. And so a lot of time I'll mix these sounds. Like here, if I mix this drive that I was talking about on the Spectre drive, if I mix that with like maybe the filter, it might have a cool sound. Let's say. What if we throw something else in there to add a little more? That's some cool stuff. Ain't for everybody, but I like it. So, you know. Let me go back here. I missed a whole bunch of comments that quick. Let's go back. All right, so South Africa. No, I seen yours. So Dustin, praise the Lord for making Georgia. What's up, man? Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Yeah, sir. Everybody did, man. Well, I can't speak for everybody. I did. I had a good Thanksgiving. Is this jazz? Is this a jazz? I'm not sure what you mean. It's an up-tempo jazz. I guess. I mean, it depends. It could be gospel, jazz. I mean, it depends. I'm talking about the groove. I don't want to classify it because it could fit so many different genres. Some you could hear in jazz, something you could hear in gospel. It's just, I call it feel good music. That's what I call it. Izzy, what's up, man? Zacchaeus Wilson, do all bass amps have a hum? No, they don't. I think this is humming. It might be some type of, I got stuff overdrive and everything right now. And I think there might be a, I got to go back and check and make sure that I'm not having any grounding issues. But no, all bass amps don't have a hum. And this one, matter of fact, I think this one, I have a little space heater in this building, and I think that's what's causing the hum this morning for my amp, if you're talking about mine. But no, not all bass amps have a hum. But most of the time when you hear the hum, you got to check that kind of thing. It could be something that's interfering with that power. I'm not a super techie person, but you want to check that grounding, make sure you're not having a grounding issue, meaning like plugged into a bad outlet or something like that, you know, some type of surge protector or whatever. It could be anything like that that be causing a hum or a buzz. Could be a bad cable. You know, it might not be your amp, it could be a cable. There's a number of things that could cause that. I know what mine is. Mine is a space heater that I got plugged up. All right, so let's see here. Rock mixed sounds like rock guitar. Yeah, it does. Can we see? Somebody wanted to see it. I hate to move the phone. Sometimes when I move it, the internet connection gets, I don't know why, it gets weird. So yeah, I'll try it. Hopefully nothing happens. Let's see here. Aim this. Hold on. I hate doing this. Hold on. There you go. Now you can see it. That's the setup. You can see my spaghetti junction cables happening there, but that's the setup. The Digitech Jamman Stereo. the Corona chorus up here, Polytune. I got a big old finger in the camera. The Alter Ego, Spectre Drive, the Hall of Fame Reverb, and the MXR. Absolutely. So yeah. Hopefully I didn't lose anybody. I don't know why this camera does that. When I move it around, sometimes I lose connection, and so that's why I don't like moving it. Guess that's what happens when you're out in the country. So let's see here. Yeah, that's it. That slap wah. Oh yeah, stereo. Am I saying that right? Stereo. What are the common mistakes as a jazz bass player? Oh man, you want to start listing them out? It's like I don't. The truth be told, I don't really consider myself like a jazz musician. I can play a little jazz. I know some people might like, yeah, right. But seriously, I don't consider because there are cats who like really study jazz. I'm like a gospel player, soul and all this stuff that can play a little of that stuff because there are cats who I consider like they are jazz players. So yeah, me personally, I would say the biggest common thing that a lot of cats that try to learn jazz skip over, in my opinion, is learning walking bass. And that's like foundation for playing jazz bass. I think people are so interested in learning solos and that kind of thing, and learning how to, fly around the bass at 100 miles per hour, that most people don't take time out to learn fundamental stuff, Like, let me see here. Just regular walking bass. And so, like being able to kind of walk through the different chord changes and that kind of thing, being aware of chord changes, because that's in jazz music, my little knowledge of jazz. Again, I don't consider myself a jazz whiz, but I have studied some jazz, and one of the things I know about jazz music is you really have to be familiar with the chord changes. In order to even do walking bass and to know what notes work. Of course, chromatic always works, but to be able to kind of know what works over the chords, you have to kind of be familiar with the chords and have a good idea of what the notes of the chords are in order to pick and choose which notes you're going to use. So that's knowing what a G minor and a C7 and all that stuff, knowing what it is and what it sounds like, just the chord functions, like kind of basic chord functions, to be able to kind of navigate around the bass line. And so if I had to give you a more technical answer, I would say that, not learning walking bass, not understanding chords, that kind of thing, and definitely timing. Timing is everything in any genre of music that you play. Having a good sense of timing, a good sense of feel for the pulse, and that kind of thing, are things that I think a lot of people nowadays, not back in the day, because I think I'm in an in-between generation. I'm almost 40, so I'm closer to 40 than I am 30. So yeah, I think I'm in an in-between generation where I had to kind of get some of the old school way of learning, and now I'm learning the new school stuff as well. But I think some of the things that's missing from a lot, not everybody, because some of these new cats are killing it, but a lot of the younger players kind of skip over a lot of the fundamental stuff and go straight to the solo. And then some of them can play you under a table with solos, but when it comes to foundational stuff, and that, to me, that's across the board in any genre of music, especially in gospel music. That's my area of expertise, gospel and soul and that whole thing. I can play several genres, but my area of expertise where I've spent the most time is in gospel music. The cool thing about gospel is that we cover so much music and so many other areas. Will Meyer, what's going on, man? So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on what I think some of the common mistakes could be. Let's see here. I just see Brazil. I can't understand what you said, but good morning to you. So Vision by Mike, no problem, man. Man, this looks cool. I love all the tones. Please, if it's possible for me to use a vocoder effect. Yeah, absolutely. Is it possible to use a vocoder effect? I know what you're talking about, but yeah, you can pretty much use any effect you want to use on bass. It's just a matter of making it work. Thank you again for some great information and knowledge. Time to get back to work. Oh man, you always have to run out on me, but I totally understand it. Thank you for tuning in. All right, so let's get back to this track real fast, and we'll talk a little bit. Let's see here. So getting through these chord changes, like moving that fast, you really have to kind of almost think in a sense or have an idea what you want to do if you're going to play through the chord. Somebody said, hold on, I missed something. Charles said you would kill a fretless sound on this track. Jocko Morgan. No, sir. I'm still working on my fretless chops. I got to get them up. I was saying one of the difficult things about, I'm not going to say it's difficult, different. You kind of want to have your ideas together. I start creating, and I don't be thinking solo and immediately when I start creating. I'm just putting the song, putting the groove together. And like moving through these changes, if you want to play through the changes, you definitely got to have a good idea. Right now, I'm still kind of gathering my thoughts of what I want to do. I know what's happening. I know the chorus that's happening there, but figuring out how I want to approach it. Because you could stay on like, straight C, like A minor all the way through it. You can kind of get away, you can almost force to get away with it, but I want to play a little smarter than that and kind of play through some of the changes. So being able to really basic approach. So again, you can spend a lot of time on, and you want, like, in a sense like that, I'd rather have a little bit more time to spend on each chord to really embellish, but that's the trick of it, is moving through it really fast. I'm really letting y'all in on a raw part of my practice right now, and real practice don't sound good. Just figuring out the different ways I can kind of get through it and still make it feel fluent. It ain't easy. It's easy for some of these cats, but not me. I have to really, really put in a lot of time to figure it out. I'm being patient in my learning, but I can't wait to develop my own sound. I feel like I can pick up my favorite bass player like you, Sheree, and Thad, and any on any track because y'all have your own sound. I see what you're saying. How do you approach worship songs? Okay, that's a different that's a different question. How do I approach worship? It depends on the song. I mean, all worship songs are not the same. I approach them first off with respect to what's happening in the music. And obviously, I'm not past the 12th fret most of the time when I'm playing a worship song. So in short, it really matters the song, how I approach it. Most of the time, the song, or not most of the time, all the time, the song is first, and making sure I'm playing the bass line first, and really being careful of how I move, that I don't do too much to take away from the song. And when I'm in these lives and I'm playing around, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm playing around because there's not a lot at stake here. It's really a live practice, what it is. You guys get to see me mess up live and come up with ideas. Some work, some don't work. And so I can kind of get away with. So hopefully if there's a young player on here and you're hearing the stuff that I'm doing, you're not taking this to think, okay, this is the stuff he's doing live. It's not. It's really not. When I'm playing live, it's definitely less is more is in full effect for me, because unless I'm playing a solo gig or somebody has called on me to take a solo, you're not going to hear all that stuff. But these are the places where I can get in here and work through and work out all these ideas. And most of the time for us as bass players, we don't get the spaces to work through these ideas. Because think about it, when you're playing a gig, if you are a working musician, 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to get called for a solo most of the time. If you're playing a jazz or some type of R&B gig where the musicians are taking solos, you're going to get, out of 10 songs, you might get 2 solos. So chances are you're not getting to really work that muscle a lot if you have a desire to want to solo. And just for you guys who are new to the game that's coming in and thinking that, because you saw a few YouTube clips, every time you get on a gig, because you can chop, people are going to be calling you to chop. That's not the case. You're not going to be called on a lot to play chops. They're going to be calling you to play bass. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of gigs that people will call. I've been called on a lot of times to solo in a lot of situations and a lot of scenarios. So and it's not always a jazz gig. Sometimes it's a gospel gig or, some other type of gig. So it varies. But these types of things over the years in my own practice time and finding ways to kind of work through these changes and doing stuff like I'm doing now, it helps me. And even putting the pressure on myself And this is a key. I'm putting the pressure on myself right now because this is like a weird section. I didn't have this camera on, I'd probably be flying through it, not thinking about it. But the fact that I'm trying to work through it and it's right on the spot and you are watching me work through it, I'm putting the heat on myself to come up with something. And that's a good thing that we don't practice for. I haven't even got around to the topic of what today's live is about. But one of the things I think we don't practice for is, really putting the heat on ourselves, because you don't really practice for being in the moment. Most musicians don't practice for the moment. We practice the song, we practice all the other stuff, but it's rare that we practice how to respond if, some variables happen that we weren't expecting, like someone is in the audience that we weren't expecting. Here we go. What would you do? And some of you might have already had this happen to you, but you're playing your gig and in walks Victor Wooten or Marcus Miller or one of your bass heroes. They walk in the audience in the middle of you taking a solo. How are you going to finish? Just completely get rid of the fact that you just lost all train of thought and whatever you were thinking on playing is gone now. How do you recover from that? So these are the types of things, not saying going live is the answer, but these are the types of things that you have to figure out how to work through, because the reality of it is that these things are going to happen. It might not be extreme as Marcus Miller walking in on your performance, but something is going to catch you off guard when you're playing. So, you want to be able to, and I talked about in the topic today, guard your thoughts. You want to be able to kind of put up some type of barrier to where you don't lose it when these things happen. So you practice for mistakes. You do the things necessary to make sure that you don't freak out when these moments happen, these situations come up. You don't lose it and start going into panic mode and just bomb the whole gig. Because I've had that happen before, many times. And just freaking out. I've had situations, I talked about this before, that I even bombed gigs because I was intimidated with the musicians that I was playing with. I knew how famous or how well known these musicians were, and in my mind, having this mind battle that there's this big expectation that I have to deliver, I have to do this, I have to do that, because this expectation of this person is so high, I have to make sure I meet their expectation. And what I really dissected what was going on, it wasn't their expectation at all, because obviously they already knew what I can do, or I wouldn't have been on the gig. But my own mental psyche, or whatever you want to call it, was playing tricks on me, making me think I wasn't good enough to be there. So now I have to try to live up to some other expectation of, I don't know who, but I'm thinking in my mind I have to live up to some expectation to prove myself on a gig that I'm already on. I know it's just me. Ain't nobody gonna raise their hands in the comments and say that's me too. But early on I dealt with that. I seriously dealt with that what we call it, that Napoleon syndrome when it came to my playing. You're feeling like you're having to overcompensate and try to do more to try to prove a point at times, depending on who you're playing with, and you end up bombing the gig. I've dealt with it. I can't say I've done it consistently, but one or two times it did happen to me where, you're almost trying to prove a point when there's nothing to be proven. When you put the time in, you put the effort, you put the work behind it, the stuff is going to show up. The results are going to show up. What you do in practice, what you consistently work on, is going to show up when it's time to show up. You know what I'm saying? When it's time to put out, what you've been doing consistently will show up. Case in point, there's some new things. Before I got on this live, I was practicing this morning. There's some new things that I've been working on. Even a lot of times in my practice, there's new things that I'm working on. But oftentimes when I get in my comfort zone, I go back to the things that I know and I'm comfortable with. Ultimately, my muscle memory kicks in. But the thing about adding new repertoire to your arsenal, the more you apply this to your muscle memory, the more it becomes part of your muscle memory. So like some things I was working through this morning, some different arpeggios and some stuff I was working through, I haven't fully applied. And some of it I already knew, I was just kind of refreshing, but some of these things I haven't been regularly applying to my playing, so they haven't fully became part of my muscle memory yet. But there's still other things that I do that I can do really well. I can do really, really fast. And I don't have no trouble playing it. But when it comes to some of these new things that I'm trying to attempt, they haven't been fully added to my muscle memory yet. So it might be somewhat of a struggle, or I might struggle trying to remember it. Whereas when I'm just playing something that I've been knowing for years, you know, I'm not even worried about it. Just that's the same thing that could happen when it's on a gig or somebody walks in. When you're well studied in terms of well practiced and that kind of thing, when you put the time in over and over again, if it's become part of your muscle memory, your autopilot will kick in automatically. It will automatically kick in. Case in point, think about any of you guys that ever been driving home and you know you have a lot of stuff on your mind. Maybe this only happened to me. But it's like you're driving and at some point you're still driving, your body is still going through the motions, but you're somewhere else. And the next thing you know, you're pulling up in your yard and you don't know how you got home. It's been so engraved in your muscle memory that your body just follows suit. I mean, even paying attention to people pulling out in front of you, you know, whatever the case may be, you went all the way home almost somewhere else in your mind, thinking of something completely different, but your body and your energy and your muscle memory, everything happened to get you where you needed to be, and you don't know how you got home. You just know I got there. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I tune out while I'm driving. I'm somewhere else thinking of some different ideas and some things I can create, that kind of thing. You know, I see you guys' comments. I'm going to respond to them in a minute. But you know what I'm saying? Those are some of the things you want to be thinking about. So when we're talking about guarding your thoughts, those are some of the things you want to consider. You want to consider practicing, and like I'm doing here, just going through the, you know, putting yourself out there a little bit. If it pains you, if it embarrasses you, even on gigs, and this is gonna hit some of y'all. I'm gonna come right down your aisle. Some of y'all, when you're playing gigs, there are times that they're calling you for a solo, and you always say, "Nah, man, y'all go ahead. I don't want it." I'm gonna challenge you, stop doing that. Of course, you haven't probably been doing it now because what's been going on with the pandemic. But once this is over with, like use this time that you have, this downtime, to really, really work on your chops. Really work on your chops. Even if you don't want to be a solo player, it's always good to have that stuff. Because what I found, even when I'm not playing solos, all this information helps me to build better bass lines when I try to apply this to my bass lines. All this stuff that I do, run up and down the neck, when I'm trying to apply some of this stuff to my bass lines and just moving through, having a nice bass line, it helps me. You know what I'm saying? It's not always for solo. I don't take that pedal board out when I'm just playing a regular gig. It's just, you know, I take it when I know I'm going to be playing a solo. But if I'm not playing a solo, more than likely, it's just me and this bass and a rig, and that's it, you know? So I challenge you, stop telling whoever that's asking you to play a solo, "Nah, man, y'all go ahead." No, you need to put yourself under the fire, because the only way you get better at it, the only way you get more confident at playing solos, because that's the biggest thing, is not that you don't want to take a solo and you just want to play pocket. "Nah, man, I'm pocket." No, you scared. Most of y'all are scared. I'm telling you to your face. Most of you are scared that you're going to mess up, and pocket is the safe answer to say, "Oh yeah, man, he's a seasoned bass player. He's this, he's..." No, you scared. Because it's some phenomenal pocket players that can play you under a table taking a solo. And they're not even solo bass players, but they can play you on it. If you call on them for a solo, they got one for you. But they can play pocket and just give you pocket all day. So that's not an excuse to say, "Well, I'm just a pocket player." And I'm not picking on anybody, so don't take it personal. I'm not picking on anybody. What I am trying to do is get you to challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone. Some of y'all are trying to figure out how to break down that glass ceiling, because some of you are like, "Man, I'm practicing at home. I can work through all this stuff." And I've heard some cold bass players, like, you know, like in a private environment, they will kill. But if you put them out and tell them to take a solo, it's like they're just starting. What is that? Is it not muscle memory for them? That's the other part of it. It's a thought thing. It's a thought. The muscle memory is there. I just want to come back and clarify. The muscle memory is there because if you put them in a private setting, they'll pull out all kind of stuff for you. I mean, playing all kind of stuff. But when you put them in a setting that there's people, there's an intimidation factor that's happening. There's a fear factor that's happening. All of it is rooted in the thoughts. What they're thinking about at that moment is causing them not to perform at their best level. How do I know this? Because I've dealt with it several times. So it's not that you don't have the information. It's not that it's not part of your muscle memory. What's happening is that you are being overtaken by your thoughts. Thoughts of fear, thoughts of insecurity. Like, man, what if they say this? What if, all these what ifs that doesn't matter. Because the only way you get better at something, you keep doing it. There's a quote by Les Brown that says, anything worth doing is worth doing badly until you get it right. Because most of us have heard all our life, anything worth doing is worth doing right. We've all heard that. But what if you don't know how to do it right? Well, it's worth doing badly until you can figure out how to do it better, how to do it right, the right way. You have to practice. We don't get mad at these babies when they're saying words wrong. We think it's cute. We think it's funny. But the more that they talk, my little 3-year-old, I have to go back to her, the more she talks to us and we have conversations and she listens to conversations and she's able to engage in the conversations. I hear her repeating big words now that I know she don't know what they mean, but she understands the context of what these words, at least she understands where they go, and she knows how to use them, and she knows how to pronounce the words. All of it might not be clear, but the more she says them, it's like the more, it becomes clear. And I'm sitting there, my wife and I are sitting there scratching our head like, what in the world? Like, where'd she get this from? But of course, she's listening in. She's listening in, like Victor Wooten says, she's listening in on professionals talk. She's listening in on the professionals. And so not only is she listening to the professionals, but she's engaging into the conversation and trying to use those words in the midst of the conversation. You can go back home and practice them all day, but if you don't use them in the proper context, you don't know how well they work. So when you actually take these things that you've been hearing, join into the conversation. If there's a moment, take a moment. You might play something and it's like, that didn't work there. So at least now you know that don't work there. But if you're just practicing at home and you don't have a keyboard player or somebody that's playing chords and you're hearing these different voices, you don't get to find out if that one note that you've been practicing on all week with this lick, you don't know if it works over this chord, especially if you don't understand chords. But if you're able to play it in context, make a mistake, you can hear it. Or somebody can call you on it and be like, hey, bro, that note didn't work. You know what I'm saying? But if you're always scared and you won't take a risk, you won't take a chance, you don't get to find out what you need to improve. So there's some risk associated with it. You might feel embarrassed, feel like somebody's going to blast you out. Deal with it. I wouldn't be the bass player I am now had I not been blasted a few times. I wouldn't have an understanding of placement like I do now had I not had my MD that would stand up and put his hand in his pocket when I started kind of going for stuff. When I would be playing, he'll stand up and do this right here while I'm playing. I was so embarrassed because I'm thinking like I'm giving it to him. They'd be asking me to come out, man, come on. And so I started playing a little bit more stuff, and he'd stand up and put his hand in his pocket. And after so many times of doing it, I started figuring out, okay, wait a minute. Now these bass players are doing the kind of stuff that I'm doing, and they're getting away with it. But when I do it, they're telling me to get in the pocket. So either there's something wrong with what I'm doing, or they know something I don't know, or both. So I started figuring it out, and then I started listening to other bass players that were quote unquote busy, but it wasn't really busy. They just had great placement and they knew where to put stuff. Case in point, a great reference for what I'm talking about. Andrew Boucher, one of the best in gospel. Like some of the stuff that he would do in some of these bass lines of old, even now, you know what I'm saying, but like really a lot of the records back in the day that we listened to growing up, a lot of stuff he would get away with, like a real known song. He played Thank You Lord on the original with, what's my guy, Walter Hawkins and James Moore singing it, but he came back and did it with Mary Mary. And I want you to listen to that version. Go back and listen to the version that he did with Mary Mary. And the stuff that he's doing in that song, if you probably heard him play it live, somebody that's not really mature will probably say, man, he's really busy. No, he's not busy. He's just embellishing the song, and it works, and he's not taking over because you still heard everything clear. You still heard all the chords, and he was moving through the chords like effortlessly. So I, challenge you guys, if you haven't heard that song before, Thank You, Lord by Mary Mary. It might be called Thank You. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's like Thank You, Lord by Mary Mary. And that's Andrew Boucher on bass. And you can hear the example of what I'm talking about, just moving throughout that stuff. But at the same time, you give Andrew Boucher a solo and he'll play you under the table. And he takes that information and applies it to the bass line. It's just information. That's all it is. Not that I'm trying to become a solo player when I'm playing all of this stuff. That's not the ultimate goal. It's just getting the information, getting the resources under your hands, and being able to apply it and getting rid of that fear. I'm pretty sure the first couple of times when he played, I can't speak for him because I don't personally know him. I talk to him, chat, but I don't know him like that. But I would bet the first few times when he was attempting to play the stuff that he plays effortlessly now, I'm pretty sure it was a struggle the first few times. And then it probably got easier and easier the more he did it and the more he worked that muscle. A lot of church musicians develop a lot of chops, especially people that come from the like apostolic type background, or Kojic, or people that play a lot of fast music. Why? Because they're always playing stuff that's moving really fast, so they have to think on the fly. You know what I'm saying? So you're moving through chord changes, especially if you're playing shout music and a lot of that. You're moving through shout music and all that kind of stuff really, really fast. So subconsciously, you're learning how to move through chords, and you're not even thinking about it. And most of the cats, a lot of the cats I know from back home that are fluent, some of them don't even know their notes on guitar, but they can play through every chord change. And that's why I'm kind of on the fence about the whole theory thing. Not that it's not important, but I know musicians who are phenomenal. Granted, that's a whole nother conversation, because that ear definitely has to be developed, and a lot of that is just a natural gifting. So I'm not dumb to that fact. I do know theory is important. But I'm saying there's some things just culturally you are exposed to that helps you along the way. But for you guys who haven't been culturally like myself, your culture wasn't that. My culture was this, And that's about as busy as the bass line got, and I'm not kidding. So if that was my culture, where did all that stuff come from? It means I got out of my comfort zone and started pushing myself to try to hear this stuff and try to understand it more. And that's the short until I feel like I'm talking a lot. But that's the short of it. I literally started pushing myself to try to understand this stuff more. And I had to get around it. I had to listen to it. And then I had to get into the conversation. All right, let me read through some of these comments. I don't want to feel like I'm just rambling on. Hopefully y'all are getting some out. Let me know y'all getting some out of this. Because I don't want to feel like I'm just throwing stuff out there that's going over folks' head. Somebody says, do you use scales when soloing? Absolutely. How do you approach creating solos? I think I might have answered that, but if not, I'll come back to it. Been there, brother. That's in church too. Hey Jermaine, good morning. I'm late, happy to join in. Good morning, Andre. Andrew, I'm calling you Andre. Having fun practicing my major and minor pentatonic and developing my muscle. Great, that's great stuff, man. He said, that's so true. I'll play my part and fulfill my role, but when I'm asked to solo outside of the pocket, I get nervous and start sweating profusely. Man, thank you for being honest. Y'all try to put me out front, make me feel like I'm the only one that's done that. So thank you, Andrew, for being honest, man. We got some honest people on here this morning, so I appreciate you. Madagascar is in the building. What's up, Lloyd? Good morning to you. Tanya says, good morning, sir. Late to the table, but I can't wait to go back and hear today's session from the beginning. Absolutely. Thank you for joining in. Charles says, no, this is great stuff, man. Thanks for letting us in your head a bit. Man, my pleasure. Been a metal rock bassist for years, but always loved gospel bass and music. What's a good way to start? Like, what's good listening. Who's that? Benji. Benji, man, thank you for your interest in gospel. I'm always blown away when people that come from other like genres or other backgrounds of music are interested in playing gospel. I did a video on my channel. If you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe first off. But if you haven't seen this video, I did a video called 10 great bass line, 10 gospel great bass line, something like that. But check my channel and you can look at Jermaine Morgan TV season 4 and you can find the video that says 10 gospel great bass lines or something along that lines. And I literally give you like 10 different song references and about 8 or 9 players that you can go and check out that literally can get you started today in knowing some stuff that you can listen to. I've done some other stuff in past times as well, talking about some good stuff that you can listen to really get you introduced to gospel. But just like contemporary gospel music, those are some bass players you should check out. Some mentions in that video were like, I think I mentioned Andrew Goucher was like one of the first ones I mentioned. Joel Smith. I mentioned Fred Hammond. I mentioned Alan Evans. I mentioned Reggie Parker. I didn't mention Reggie Young, but any stuff with Reggie Young. And a lot of these people you would probably know the artists. You wouldn't be able to Google some of these people and find those albums right away. But yeah, those are some of the ones like Reggie Parker, Reggie Young. I can't remember everybody. Maurice Fitzgerald. Sheree wasn't in the video, but he's another mention. Daryl Freeman. I don't know if he was in that particular video, but he's another one. It's so many. Thaddeus Tribute that I mentioned. My dude Justin Raines is another one. So artists, listening to Bishop Paul Morton was like one of the first songs that I mentioned on the album. Fred Hammond is an artist. Going to Walter Hawkins, all that stuff. Tremaine Hawkins, going back and listening to that stuff. To Rance Allen, the late great Rance Allen, even going back to some of that stuff. Kirk Franklin, my dude Keith, what's his last name? Somebody help me. But yeah, all of the Kirk Franklin stuff, man, that I forget to mention him. I don't know why, because such great bass stuff that's been so influential over the years, especially for my playing. But yeah, Keith Taylor with Kirk Franklin before Matt Ramsey. Matt Ramsey is a beast as well, but Keith Taylor, the stuff that he did all of the years with Kirk Franklin, going back and listening to Simeon Baker, Terry and Simeon Baker, all that stuff, man. It's so many different players. I don't want to keep naming people because there's so many great bass players and great stuff that you can listen to in gospel. Listening to gospel quartet music, like I was talking about. If you go back to last week's live, we listed out a lot of gospel quartet greats. And do me a favor, because y'all helped me out a lot. My team that's watching, drop some names of some gospel people or some gospel artists that he can go and listen to help him to better, expand his knowledge of gospel. Because we can flood you. You'll be sitting here for the rest of 2021 just going through all of these names and going through all of these artists that are just phenomenal bass players and phenomenal songs that you can learn from. Let's see here. Let me go back. So hopefully that helped, Benji. I tried to list out as much as I could right off the top of my head. Tiffany says it works the same way for singers. When we have to ad-lib outside of the verses, it can get tricky and extra pressure. Absolutely. You have to push it. You have to grow. You have to make yourself grow. And Andre says you hit the nail on the head. Do you have like some solos kind of link that make some out? Hold on. Trying to understand what you said here, Lloyd. All right. So do you have some type of solos kind of like that makes some out scale inside of a groove? By the way, I appreciate all that you're doing. I thank you for that. First off, I'm gonna try to read your comment one more time. I know some of y'all be typing fast, so I do it myself. So you saying, do I have any type of solos kind of like that makes kind of link that makes some out scale inside of a groove. I have the closest thing I think I have to what you're asking. I have a course on my site called Riffs and Licks that I'm breaking down lines and stuff from my, like Riffs and Licks Volume 2. I broke down some lines from some of my solos that I played on one of my albums, and just kind of, you know, gave different ways that you could use some of those riffs from that song. I think I'm answering you correctly. I wasn't completely sure what you were asking, but I have tons of lessons where I'm breaking down different lines and licks for days here on this channel. But like I said, I also have that course where I break down some different lines and different solo ideas that can be applied over a groove and that kind of thing. You don't have to just use them for a solo. So yeah, a lot of ideas there. Steven says, my confidence is grew after I applied the principles taught about being you and challenging yourself to grow by getting yourself out of there, developing thick skin. Absolutely, man. Getting yourself out there. I'm sorry. Yeah. Developing that thick skin. It works, man. When you start pushing yourself, the thing about it, once you start pushing yourself and making yourself uncomfortable and getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, it helps you. It really, really helps you to challenge yourself and to do more, because you start finding out other powers that you didn't know you had. You know what I'm saying? Like when we think in superhero type of talk, you start discovering other gifts that you didn't know you had. Other little things when you start developing. I think that's another thing that keeps people from developing their sound. My dude Charles was talking about it earlier when he was talking about getting to the point where he can develop his sound. I think the biggest thing, the reason why you can recognize some of us when you hear certain things that we do, is because we all at some point face that putting yourself out there. You know, that whole idea of what if they don't like it? And then you, at some point you say to yourself, I like it. If they don't like it, you know what I'm saying? To me, a perfect example of that, legendary, Stanley Clarke. Stanley Clarke has a very, very unorthodox, to me, this is my personal opinion, when it comes to the sound of his bass and the sound that he's played for years, it's very unorthodox in terms of the typical bass sound or the typical bass player sound. It's a different sound. I probably personally wouldn't choose it, and shoot, he probably wouldn't choose my sound either. But in terms of, I mean, beyond the fact that what he plays is amazing, the sound that he chooses to use, you know that's Stanley Clarke when you hear it. You know when you hear that sound, man, that sounds like nobody but Stanley Clarke. You know the sound. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not going to assume, I don't know how he got to that sound, but it's him. And so at some point, you have to just settle in yourself that I'm okay with this. I like this. I like the way that I navigate. All the while improving. Don't let me forget to leave that out. All the while improving and growing each time that you do what you do, and you know, spending time in the shed and doing what you have to do behind the scenes, but never losing the identity of who you are. Never trying to fit into what the status quo is for bass players. It's like now I'm filling my pedal board up and I could care less about what people think about what I got on my pedal board, because it's not for them. You know what I'm saying? When it comes time for me to do my job, okay, I'm not playing all those pedals. But when it comes time for me to do my other job, like soloing and all that other stuff that maybe somebody called me or hired me for, hey, I'm going to go with stuff that I like. I'm going to go with what makes me move, not what, like, I had this conversation, I think I put up a video early part of this year, reason why I play 6-string bass. And, you know, when I was posting videos a lot on Facebook back in the day with Bass Players United, and some of the comments that I would get on some of the videos would be, you know, people talking trash about 6-string bass or 5-string bass, talking about Jocko only used 4 strings and this, that, and the other. Okay, at the time when Jocko was playing 4-string for one, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if six string was invented at the time that Jocko kind of became a hit. Six string, if it was invented, it was very, very new. I'm not sure the exact year, but I do know Anthony Jackson had a lot to do with that. And so that wasn't his cup of tea. It doesn't mean that's the only way that bass can be played. You know, people probably wanted to tell Jimi Hendrix to turn his guitar around the right way and play. You know, you need to learn how to play like everybody else plays. No, I'm left-handed, and this is what's comfortable for me, and this is what I like. And so I'm going to sound amazing playing left-handed. You know what I'm saying? So people's perception of what something should be should not be how you measure what you should be doing and what your sound should be. That should not be the ultimate thing. And I know so many bass players who buy and who model their sound based on what their favorite player says about a particular thing. Well, this person says that you should only play these type of basses, and this person says you should only play 4 strings, and this person says if you don't have a Fender, you're not a real bass player. I guess I'm not a real bass player then, because all I have is, you know, this and square. I got more than one bass, but I don't have a Fender in my house. I had one, but I don't have a Fender, and I'm okay with that. And I don't think that makes me any less of a bass player because I don't own a Fender. So don't allow people and their perceptions and their perspectives completely influence who you are as a player. You are the one in charge of your own sound. You're the one that's developing your own sound, and you have to be confident in that. That's the only way you get confident with consistently doing your sound, is just be okay with what you sound like. Again, this is my opinion. Benji says, thank you. My pleasure, man. Dottie Peoples, a lot of good bass lines on her albums. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Loic says, thank you as well. Andrew says, hey, Jermaine. Let me see here. For the record, trying to do a solo was so bad for me outside of being nervous. Perspiring, I would stick to the bass line, and when asked to do a solo and change it up a little. I got you. He said, you have given me a better understanding of applying things I've learned and need to work hard at it. And Andrew, that's really what you just said. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a safe approach, but at least you're not turning down the opportunity. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's not about the amount of notes you play. It's about being musically tasteful and taking a chance. It's a solo. It means it's your opportunity to give your expression of what you feel the music is doing in that moment. So if you don't feel like the music is doing nothing more than just putting a solid bass line down and just moving a little bit over that bass line, that's your solo. It doesn't have to, you know, when you're like, you know, if you're playing, if we're playing like if somebody call on you for a solo, because I've had stuff like that happen to me, it'll be the most random song and they'll ask for a bass solo. And it's like, what? This song grooving too hard. What are you talking about, a bass solo? And so, you know, you just try to give them that same bass line, but add a little bit more to it so you at least get credit for trying, you know. It didn't mean it was just all this stuff ripping and running up and down the neck. So I thank you for making that comment because it helped me make a point. It doesn't mean you have to be playing 90, 100 miles per hour just to take a solo. Sometimes it's just the act of getting outside of your comfort zone and being okay, going back to talking about your own sound, being okay with whatever you choose to do in that moment and being confident about it. Because I've seen some cats who bring the house down and they ain't doing nothing but playing their bass line. They break everything. But they giving it to you like the whole time. But they put so much energy and so much excitement into it. The audience was with them the whole time. People screaming, going nuts. You would have thought Jocko just took a solo. But that's all it was. And it didn't have to be fancy. It didn't have to be busy. It's your interpretation of what you're hearing in that moment. So great comment, Andrew. In my opinion, I think it's important. I get what the point you was making, but I think it's important to really point that out, that, you know, it's not about the amount of notes. It's the quality. It's the quality of what you're playing. People, you know, nowadays we're seeing everybody's a solo bass player now. You know, everybody can chop. Everybody can play 300 miles per hour. But it's not about the quantity of notes. It's not about the quantity of notes. It's about what you're saying in that moment. And sometimes that's the struggle. I'll be honest, for me, being a solo player and having records out and people knowing, some people that really follow you and they know what you can do, sometimes there's a pressure to deliver because people have seen you. Like, I guess that's the bad part about when you do get to a certain place in your plan that people know you can do certain things. It's almost expected all the time, and you feel pressured to deliver that thing. But I think the beauty of it is being able to maintain the control to where I'm not going to let you force me into playing something that I'm not feeling right now. If I'm feeling this, I'm going to play this. All the while, as an artist, we still try to give the audience what they want. I'm not being ignorant to that fact. As an artist, you still have to, like, you know, they're paying for tickets. They want to hear certain things, but at the same time, not being pressured into becoming something else or somebody else. Being honest about who you are, and if what you played on those records, you're being honest, well, you shouldn't have a problem playing it live. You know, that whole thing. If that's who you are, that's who you are. I'm not saying if you're a solo artist and you didn't chop the whole record, now you get to the gig and you're playing Mary Had a Little Lamb, you're going to have some people that's mad at you. If that's all you're doing, you got to come with it. You know what I'm saying? But not being pressured every time you play to oversell something, to try to prove something, that kind of thing. Last thing that I wanted to say, the whole point of, and I've been on here for a while now, but the whole point of today's live, guard your thoughts. Be mindful of who you let in, who you let around you. And I didn't want to leave out without making this point. And it kind of ties into some of what we're talking about today. But be mindful into who you let come in, who you let be the dominant influence in your circle. I hit on it a little bit when I was talking about, you know, certain players that we look up to can put their opinions on us, and it almost like that becomes law because these people, you know, you respect them, so what they have to say is very important to you. I will say this, even on a more personal note, taking it away from the bass for a little while. Y'all know how I do. You have to continue, and if you're writing stuff down, continue personal development. Please continue personal development, because I'll take it here for a second. I noticed when I went back home, there's a certain way, and it's not just back home, so I'm not trying to throw my hometown on a bus or anything like that. But I noticed there's a certain mentality around certain people when I go back that causes me to think a different way, and it causes me to kind of go into a way of thinking that I don't usually have when I'm like by myself or when I'm in my own area, in my own surroundings. I kind of have the tendency, if I'm around someone too long, to start picking up some of their traits. I think we all do. That kind of, you know, I don't want to call it a chameleon thing because that sounds sinister. Not a chameleon thing, but you know, we when we're interacting with people, it's kind of like the whole when in Rome type deal, do what the Romans do. You know, I noticed some things about me when I got home because I wasn't doing my normal getting up at 5 in the morning, and you know, I literally took a complete break. You know, I'm chilling. I'm really having a vacation, which was cool. But the downside of that, I wasn't doing my normal thing where I get up in the morning and really work on my self-development, listening to stuff, putting positive stuff back into my ears. Because even if I don't do it here, it's not just the surroundings of out there and everywhere else, but it can happen here at home with just regular stuff happening, just life. If I don't get up and do the natural stuff, if you don't continue to self-develop and do the stuff that moves you forward, then the other stuff will take over. It's a saying, Jim Rohn was talking about the weeds. You have to make sure that you tend to your garden. Your garden is your mind. If you don't tend to your garden and continue to self-develop, that means getting out there with your rake and or like for you guys that do your lawn like me, getting out there with your weed whacker, your weed eater, and your lawnmower and mow your grass. The weeds will take over. And how far in will the weeds come? As far as you allow them to. If you don't get out and trim around, like your driveway or your walkway or around your house, weeds will start growing all up the side of your house. All the time I have to pull off vines and stuff that's trying to climb up the side of my house. Now I wonder if me being human and being a man, noticing that these weeds are growing up the side of my house, I have enough common sense to pull them down instead of letting these weeds completely take over my house. Why wouldn't I do that with my own mind? Because a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with, a lot of stuff that we're going through, it stems back to just a lack of maintenance when it comes to our mind. So we don't think the way we should think because we're not doing the maintenance that needs to be done to keep up the upkeep of your mind. You do the upkeep on your yard. Some of you pay people to come out and do your yard because you don't want weeds growing over everything. But what are you doing to guard your mind and guard your thoughts? I noticed I was off because when I got back home, like yesterday, I'm being transparent. I try to be honest as possible with y'all. Yesterday, I had a bad day. I had a couple of times where I kind of lashed out because I just short patience with certain things. And I had to check myself and like, dude, like what's really good? You're off. Like, what is this? Why are you so irritated, or why are you lashing out so quickly? And this, what's causing this? And I noticed that I had almost a whole week off from what I normally do, tending to my mind. What had happened is the weeds had started growing. It don't take them long. You cut your yard in the summertime, and next week you got to cut your yard again. The weeds start to grow. They don't need a lot of time. Most of you guys, if you stay in a really fertile area, you can cut your yard, and in 2 days you see them little weeds popping up, and that's what happens. What are the weeds? The negative thoughts, social media, news, anything, people that we know, people that we love, people that we respect, come and talking in your ear. It can be on your job, it can be on your gig, that you have somebody that's always negative and they're coming and feeding you that stuff. Well, if you don't have anything to combat that, which means like personal development, self-development, working on yourself and being able to improve those areas that are being attacked, you're going to fall subject to it. And it's going to always catch you off guard. Like yesterday again, it caught me off guard. And what's crazy, I did my thing yesterday. I did my little whole self-development thing yesterday, but it's not one day. It's a culmination. You keep doing it, piling it on, because you want to be able to quickly go back to those thoughts that said, nah, let's approach that a different way. Or no, take a minute and really think and process before you respond. But when you're walking around with a loaded gun because you haven't been cleaning your mind, so to speak, and you haven't been working on the things that you need to work on, and you've been hearing a lot of negative talk, hearing a lot of people respond with, the way that they respond, or being around people, like just say being around people and you see something that happens crazy and somebody like, man, I would have did such and such and I would have done that. Now, if you're hearing that over and over and over and over again, well, you're getting more of that into your mind. So now when that situation for you happens, what are you going to do? You're going to respond the way you've been talking about. Well, if they do that to me, here's what I'm going to do. You got your opportunity and now you failed your test. Because that's what it was. It was a test. It was an opportunity for you to see how would you handle the situation. And if you've been feeding yourself the wrong information, you now have the wrong stuff. You now have the wrong stuff, and it's not going to work out well. Now you got to go back and apologize for stuff that you did, stuff that you said, a way that you acted that was out of character, that was not like you. So all of that being said, You have to guard your mind. How do you guard your mind? What do you do? Because that's the next question, right? What do I do to guard my mind if that's being the case, Jermaine? All right, so what are you taking in daily? Outside of learning a whole bunch of chops. Here's one of the things I want to say, because I know a lot of times on these lives, for you guys that don't know me, I'm like, dude, what does this have to do with bass playing? Why is this even necessary? I know plenty of people who don't talk about all this stuff, and they're phenomenal. You're right. There are a lot of phenomenal musicians who don't deal with self-development and all that stuff because it's not important to them. That don't get them an extra dollar. So you think. You'll be surprised developing yourself and adding value to yourself, what that does for your bank account as a musician. Because the more value you add to yourself and the more you wake up to certain parts of who you are, the more value you can begin to add to others. When you start to add value, sorry about that, when you begin to add value to others, they begin to add value back to you. In other words, you start attracting what you want. You start attracting certain things like dollar signs that you want. You start attracting that because your mindset is not to always get money, but it's like, I want to add value to somebody. And now people see you as something that's valuable and something that's rare. And so now people want to add value back to you simply because of changing your mind. So you might think it has nothing to do with bass playing and music and all that kind of stuff, self-development, but it has everything to do with everything. People like to be around good people. People like to be around people who uplift them, not somebody who always with their head in the clouds all the time. But I'd much rather have somebody around me who's helping me, lifting me up, than somebody who's pulling me down. If you're talking negative all the time and I'm trying not to be negative, then you're pulling me down, and I'm going to probably try to cut you loose because you're not adding any value to me. But you're helping me, you're pouring into me the stuff that I need to hear, then I want to be around. I want to be around. I want to hear what you have to say. And if you have something valuable to add, I want to hear more. I want to hear more and more of that. And if you are good at what you do, that's going to make me value that much more, because not only are you good at what you do, I can look at your success trail and know that that's maybe a path that I want to take. I want to do something like that. So once you start working on these areas, it's more inspiring to others. A lot of the people who inspired me growing up to want to do for others and want to give to others were not famous musicians, were not phenomenal players. They were good, but I was more impressed. My brother, my parents. One honorable mention, a guy by the name of James Judon. Some of you guys may not ever know that guy, but just an honorable mention. Like, that poured a lot into me when I was in college. We had a college gospel choir when I was in Mississippi, ICC, and this guy poured a lot. I mean, from giving guitars to like picking us up, taking us to rehearsals sometime, taking us to concerts and events, giving us music. Hey, take this and listen to this, learn this, do this, even correcting it, that kind of thing at times, like, yo, you're playing that wrong. You need to go back and practice. That kind of just being straight honest with you, but ultimately just me seeing that giving nature consistently, where this dude is consistently giving. You know what I'm saying? He's giving, pouring into people. Great musician, but even more great person. And so those are the things that inspired me. Some of the things that inspired me. I think one of the things that inspired me be on Victor Wooten, and I think that it inspires so many other people. I don't personally know Victor Wooten, but like his philosophy, some of the stuff that he talks about, and you get to hear the heart behind the person. It's great to be a phenomenal player, but when this person opens their mouth and they have something to say that's of value, and it's like, wait a minute, this dude on some other stuff, like he's a beast playing, but once he puts the bass down, there's still value there. Can we say the same about you and your instrument? I'll wait. And it's a rhetorical question. I'm not poking fun at anybody, but part of my purpose is to help you unlock your potential, unlock your purpose, and make sure that you're adding value to others. And it's not just to play music, me personally. And I'm aware of that. And I'm taking full advantage of that because I know I'm responsible for what I do with my gift. Um, you know, Les Brown has a saying that he says, you want to work on yourself. You want to really develop everything about yourself. Because once you open your mouth, you let the world know who you are. Once you start to open your mouth, you let the world know exactly who you are. So what are you saying, and what do people know about you by what you say? What you say is determined by what you feed yourself. You regurgitate what you've been eating. It comes back out. The stuff you've been taking in is going to come back out. It's going to come out of your mouth. It's going to come out of your playing. You can play some phenomenal stuff, but if the heart is wrong, real people, real sensitive people will sense it. Not everybody will. You can pull the wool over some people's eyes, a lot of people's eyes from what I'm seeing in 2020. But there are a core group of people who are listening and they know the difference. They know the difference. So didn't mean to get on that, but I did want to just give you some stuff to be mindful and to be aware of who you are. Just be aware of who you are. Jim Rohn, last quote. It says, be aware of who you become while going after what you want. Be very aware of who you become while going after what you want. Some people are willing to do anything for success, to get up, to be put on, so to speak, in the musician world. Man, put me on. I done got so many calls. Since I moved to Atlanta like over 13 years ago, I've gotten so many calls from people who want me to put them on. Like, beware of what you become pursuing what you want. That's the quote. Beware of what you become pursuing what you want. What COVID did for a lot of people, it opened the curtains up. It really opened the curtains up. I mean, you've seen where a lot of people were living, especially musicians. And this is not a shot at musicians, because I am a musician. But it really showed where we had placed our value. Most of us had placed our value more on the gig itself and the prestigious stuff that comes with the gig, rather than who we are on that gig or what we're offering and the value that we're adding. So now it's caused a lot of people to have to rethink their whole musical career, because now if this happens again, what do I do? And how do I be prepared for this if it happens again? I can't base it all off of a gig. Gigs change. Seasons change. Everything changes. Nothing stays the same. We all see that now in 2020. Before 2020, it sounded like a cliche. Only for some people, And so, yeah, Tanya, and that's not original, that's Jim Rohn. But, we really have to be mindful of this stuff. And so I think a lot of us received a wake-up call this year. And we have, what is it? Today December 1st? Yep, today is December 1st. So you have about 30 days left in this year to start really developing yourself. I don't want to get on these lives and just play and just give you a backing track. I want to give you stuff that's going to move you forward, because there's been a lot of people that checked out of here this year. And if I happen to be one of them, I don't plan to be at all. But if I happen to be one of them, I would hate to know that the only thing I gave you is entertainment. I want to make sure that I'm giving you what you need and what I'm supposed to give you. And if it doesn't get a lot of likes and if it's not popular, I'm okay with that, as long as I know I did what I was supposed to do. So I challenge you today, pursue purpose. Guard your mind, guard your thoughts. Guard what you let in, guard what you feed yourself, because all of that is going to come back out in some form or fashion. And be careful that you don't spew out something that kills somebody else, because it's toxic. Put good in, get good out. Put bad, toxic stuff in, you're going to get toxic stuff out. And it's a daily process. And just because you've been doing it for a year, a month, 2 years, 3 years, at any moment, if you drop the ball, it could all go downhill. So it's something that you have to consistently do. All right. So let's go through a few of these comments before I jump off. Let's see here. All right, so Tanya says, yes, I love Herbie Hancock and George Duke songs like they created back in the songs they created back in the day. Charles Hardy said, prime example, I love Reggie Parker dearly, who preaches for 4 strings only, but that low B string had me a hello. Absolutely. Thanks for clarifying that. I don't have great hand speed yet, and focus on trying to learn how to play proper notes, chords, etc. first before playing too fast and getting out of time. Absolutely. Tending to your mind. Oh my God, that's a sermon. Right on, brother. Please, thank you for that. Wow, beware of what? Okay, I read that one already. Charles says, my grandpa used to always tell me, who you are matters today, but what you were is what people will remember. Man, that is good. I think I might steal that. Who you are matters today, but what you were is what people will remember. That's great. I like that. Brother Morgan, this was an incredible session. Thank you so much. This will absolutely move me forward. God bless and take care. Same to you, please. Thank you. You do give us food for the soul. Thank you for taking the time to do this with us weekly. It's my pleasure. As always, very helpful information. Aaron, thank you for that. Tiffany says, lost signal, but I came back to hear you say, be true to yourself. Thanks for the advice. Absolutely. No problem. Yeah, Charles dropped the nail on the head today. Who you are today is important. Let me go back. I don't want to get it wrong. He says, who you are matters today, but what you were is what people will remember. I love that. I love that. So anyway, guys, listen, I want to do something I haven't done ever. I want to give away one of my books. I want to give away one of my books to somebody that doesn't have it in the U.S., might I add. No shade to nobody else, but in the U.S., I want to give away this book to some person in the U.S. who doesn't have it. So what I want you to do, here's how you get it. What I want you to do is send me an email at Jermaine@JermaineMorgan.net with your address and why you want this book. That's it. And I'm going to pick somebody and I'm going to send you a book. I'm going to mail it to you, everything. For somebody that doesn't have this book already, I want to give it to you. And it's called 10 Ways to Success. You know what I'm saying? Like Jermaine Morgan. That's pretty much it if you don't know about this book. But if you are in the U.S., send me an email at Jermaine@JermaineMorgan.net with your address. It ain't got to be no paragraph. You don't have to give me nothing super long. Just tell me why you want the book. And I'm going to pick somebody and I'm going to send this book to you. It's my way of saying thank you. Even if you're watching the replay, I'm not going to pick it today. I'm going to give people time to respond. But yeah, if you watch this, the cutoff date is, what's today? Today's Tuesday. The cutoff date is Thursday. On Thursday, I'm going to pick somebody. Thursday, December 3rd, I'll pick somebody. And yeah, I'll announce that person on next week. And depending on how I go, I think I want to do this throughout the month of December. I want to give out a book every week during the month of December. So that's how it's going to go. After these lives, if you watch the live, that's how it's going to go. If you don't have your book, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to pick one person. I'm going to give a book away to them. So send me an email at Jermaine@JermaineMorgan.net. Send me your address. And I'm not trying to send you nothing to your house in terms of spamming you. So don't be scared to send me your address. Send me your address and tell me why you want the book. Yeah, just simply tell me why you want the book. And I'll pick somebody and we go from there. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate you guys that stayed all the way to the end. Thank you for watching this video. I pray that it's been helpful helpful to you and inspiring and encouraging to you as well. This is Jermaine Morgan, Grooves and Motivation, live every Tuesday morning. We're going to get better, y'all. I have plans for making this better, so it's going to get better. Just hang with me for a little while. We're working through some things, but the plan is to keep this going. I really enjoy these. In the future, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But for now, this is where it's at. Every Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, and yeah, be safe. Tanya says, be safe and healthy. Same to y'all. Everybody, be blessed. Thank you for watching. I'm out. Peace.